Hey everyone, it's Shane Young, and let's talk about the Phoenix Suns. After winning 14 of their last 15 games, they currently sit 44-10, the best team in basketball. Of course, the main scoring punch is provided by Devin Booker, who's averaging nearly 29 points on 53, 32, 82 shooting splits in that 15-game span. But a large portion of their success and identity is tied to Chris Paul. I think he's the primary reason they are so elite in the clutch, and on both sides of the ball. This is also the best team from top to bottom that Chris Paul has ever been a part of. It's a more sophisticated and diverse offense than the 2018 Rockets. It's greater talent and a deeper rotation and infinitely better coaching than the Lob City Clippers. Phoenix has built a rock-solid culture behind Monty Williams with a healthy balance of youth and veteran accountability, and CP3 only gets smarter as his career progresses. You know, we could always discuss Paul's late-game execution as a scorer, with him manipulating defenders, snaking to the right elbow for a pull-up immediately after a ball screen, and baiting the opponent into silly fouls. However, I wanted to strictly focus on the Suns' beautiful pick-and-roll attack and their constant pursuit to generate so many terrific looks. Despite ranking 19th in total passes made per game, CP3 is leading the NBA by a wild margin in points created off assists. He just doesn't waste possessions, as you see with the insane ratio of 11.1 potential assists per bad pass turnover. His screen and roll pocket passing has facilitated the growth of many big men in the last 17 years. Think about Tyson Chandler, David West, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, and Clint Capella. And now consider the Suns' collection of bigs, notably DeAndre Ayton, JaVale McGee, and Bismack Biyombo. There's a reason JaVale McGee leads the NBA in roll man efficiency, scoring 1.5 points per possession after a ball screen. Ayton is third among all players at 1.35. Paul will capitalize on any open window and put his bigs in scoring position. Although CP is more of a half-court operator at this stage of his career, if you're an athletic big, he'll make sure you have an on-time, on-target pass to get an easier bucket. Maybe only LeBron has similar processing speed once a ball screen is set. What usually makes Paul so effective is the patience he exhibits once he draws help. Notice how he waits for Cam Johnson to clear the area before hitting Biyombo on the roll, knowing it will put Bogdanovic in a tough spot. Phoenix has the best and most diverse pick-and-roll attack in the league. Part of that is their Snap series, in which they utilize the Spain pick-and-roll in various ways. The alignment of Snap is simple. This is from last year's NBA Finals when the Suns took a 2-0 lead. It will start with a high ball screen. Typically you want to set it around the same spot DeAndre Ayton does right here, just to maximize space. Then as Paul breaks free, Booker will back screen Ayton's man, which is Brook Lopez in this example. As Booker pops to the perimeter, Ayton has a runway because his defender is in the middle of chaos. Not only does it require high-level communication for a defense to switch everything on this action, but with a mastermind like CP3, he will take advantage of any minor slip-up. This is also from last year when Monty realized he could spam this. CP will signal the play by snapping his fingers. You see the Pistons switch the first screen with Paul's man taking Ayton and vice versa. When the back screen is set, DeLon Wright has a decision to make. If he switches to Paul, the Suns will have a shooter wide open at the top. For him to switch and leave Paul, he needs Isaiah Stewart to not be a step behind. If you are late or indecisive, one of the Suns' scoring options will prevail. Let's take a look at a set from 2 weeks ago as Phoenix resets their offense to get into Snap. Utah actually defends this really well for 98% of the play, but it always comes back to one critical mistake. After the back screen, Booker's man steps over anticipating Paul's elbow jumper. He switches to Paul, and CP's man grabs Booker. Notice how the Jazz use the low man here, who's originally guarding Bridges in the corner, just to tag McGee until the center can get back into the play. It's great team defense to prevent any opening, but then Booker reads the switch and his new defender top locking him, so he back cuts and gets off a clean look. Okay, let's go back to the finals. Let's say you switch the initial ball screen action with Paul and his big man, as Giannis and Holiday execute right here. But then you fail to switch the back screen action once Booker enters the mix. After Booker makes contact, he's zipping to the perimeter and you have zero margin for error. Or what if you take care of both by switching on time, but DeAndre Ayton now has a guy covering him that's 8 inches shorter? If he's guarded by a small, CP will find him. Phoenix runs snaps so often now, they will try to disguise it early in the clock by setting up some of their elbow action, which is usually Ayton screening for a wing. All they are doing is forcing the defense to think a little more. When they eventually get into snap, sometimes the defenders will sniff out the back screen. But it doesn't matter because CP is going to read the low man while coming off the screen, and his corner spacers will always be ready. This is one of my favorite variations of the play, as the Suns set up again with a wing and a big at the elbow. They can flow right into snap by having the wing set the first screen instead, and the big following behind for the second screen. As Mikal Bridges screens for Paul, Bismack Biyombo is making contact with Bridges' man, essentially wiping both out of the play. It's up to Biyombo to slip out and quickly dive to the rim. So what happens if, instead of switching, you try to hedge the ball screen between CP and his big man? It's pretty much a recipe for disaster because Booker is bringing his man away from the paint despite not even setting the back screen, and the center is darting right down the lane uncontested. Here's another instance of CP3 making quick decisions on the fly and the Suns forcing the defense to pick their poison. Flowing from elbow to snap, Paul is able to attract both his and McGee's defender when he turns the corner. What does this mean? Well, he knows DeMar DeRozan has to rotate over to McGee's role. This is the guy he's looking at. If he feels like DeRozan is a threat to stop McGee, he'll hit Crowder in the left corner with a skip pass. But come on, this is why McGee has thrived in Phoenix's system. Remember what I said about trying to throw off a defense by initiating this set in different ways? The Suns like to put a little bit of dressing on their Spain pick and rolls to give it more flavor. Here they start the possession by signaling double drag, which is often called 77 in some NBA circles. It's 2 consecutive ball screens, while usually one screener pops and the other rolls. But look, it's just a decoy before Booker comes up from the corner to set the back screen. With Crowder relocating to the weak side, if the Wizards don't switch on the Ayton screen, there is nobody to tag Deandre and you're not stopping this freight train. One thing you'll recognize about Chris Paul-led teams is that once they figure out what works, they will repeat it. If your defense shows no signs of stopping it, you're just going to bleed points. They run the same 77 snap, and once the Wizards think they have it contained, they forget about the ball handler. Honestly, the double drag works to perfection for this team even if you know what's coming. Blake Griffin has seen this movie before. Once Booker pops to the perimeter and Griffin is in charge of containing CP plus Ayton's role, good luck. If nothing is working on a given possession and Paul decides it's go time, the Suns can instantly toggle their double drag on the fly and let him make reads. He studies the low man on every possession and knows precisely when to hit the corner as Ayton puts pressure on the rim. On this sideline out of bounds set, Paul isn't able to get separation after Kuzma switches onto him, so they just call for a snug pick and roll near the foul line, and Paul knows that if he occupies Ayton's defender, the low man will leave the right corner. In their recent clutch win over Philly, you could see more variants of their snap series in the fourth quarter. There's the elbow action for Bridges, and it flows into DA setting the ball screen. Based on what we know about snap, you would think Booker should back screen Embiid. However, since Embiid is playing in a drop near the foul line, watch what happens. DA releases the screen and immediately pivots to set a pin down for Booker. The end result is the same with Booker getting free at the top. It's a smart twist to utilize when the paint is clogged. Another spinoff they've started using is the veer action, which involves a wing that can get downhill, usually Mikal Bridges or Cam Johnson. Like everything we've seen, the genesis will be a CP3 Ayton pick and roll, but instead of rolling, putting pressure on the paint, or down screening for Booker, DA will leave Paul's man and set a wide pin down for his teammate who started in the corner. Bridges is able to get a step on his defender and get into the heart of the defense. The Valley is cooking! In year 2 of the CP3 and Booker era, their offensive attack and the experience from last July should have them as favorites for the 2022 championship.